Hi, I'm Lauretta and this is my sister
Sharon.
We are founders of the plant-based retreat, the Detox Barn, and we're also a comedy double act. I know, funny vegans, shoot me now.
9 years ago, I was diagnosed with a chronic autoimmune disease and got myself better using a plant-based diet. Since then, I've just fallen in love with living well.
I retrained as a natural vegan chef, and each week we'll be interviewing experts in the wellness industry, as well as sharing the highs and lows of trying to live well as single mums living together with our 2 kids.
How well have we lived this week? Well, we've had quite an exciting few weeks, and one of the things is we've got potential investment. It's a bit of a process, but anyway,
we're really excited because we're looking at developing new products, and it's could be a real turning point for our company.
We actually got really overexcited and then reached out to this really cool branding agency that we've wanted to work with for a very long time. Sort of go, oh look, we might have funding.
I just wanted to find out the cheapest price they could do for a startup. I just got overexcited and I sent them an email, and they emailed back going, following you on Instagram, love all your stuff, do you want to jump on a call at 5 o'clock? And I was like, yeah, okay, fine. You know, I was free at 5 o'clock, get on the call, and there's about 8 of them sat around a boardroom. We were on a big screen, literally on the wall, and they were all sat around their desks.
We were obviously projected into their boardroom. We could basically see the Shard in the background.
Yes.
And we were on our kitchen table. I was barely out of my pyjamas.
And the dog was barking, and yeah, it just all felt a bit, I was like, oh, you know, and you just think, oh my God, what's going on here? I've not signed a contract.
What have you agreed to?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay. And then they were lovely, a really lovely branding agency, and they all started introducing themselves, and they're like, hi, I'm Kylie, I'm head of development, brand story, your story, my story, the DNA of the company.
Oh, hi, I'm head of strategy. We've been looking at the DNA of your company, and strategically I'm going to help you along the pathway. One quick question, if Unilever were to buy you, are you absolutely attached to Gavin sisters? And I go, anyway, I start cracking jokes because I'm nervous, and they all guffaw. I mean, literally, they don't stop laughing, do they?
No, and well, yeah, I mean, Gavin sisters, I mean, it's a name. Yeah. Not that attached if Unilever want to come along.
They're all very, very intimidating.
Yeah, they all look
guys. Look like they literally just hit puberty, and
with sort of dark glasses, and you know, all the women absolutely gorgeous, with like literally feel like Devil Wears Prada type vibe.
And you just all of a sudden feel very, very mumsy.
Yeah,
very, very middle-aged, and totally out of my depth.
Yeah, so we were like, oh wow, these guys really like us.
Yeah. And I didn't realise I was that funny.
No, we were like, God, they really like us, and they find us really funny, and
they really love our brand. They love everything about us. They love what we're doing.
I mean, we were like, because this is so exciting. You know, you have people going, I'll be your account manager, you know, holding your hand through the process, through all the workshops of who the Gavin sisters are, what do we want to say, what's your messaging, what's your colours. And I was just like, oh my God, this is so exciting.
A celebrity, who would your brand be? I'm like, Claudia Wilkerman.
Yeah, Davina McCall meets Claudia Wilkerman. So yeah, all of this sort of stuff. So it got really exciting. So then they basically said to us, so in terms of, we're so excited to get cracking on this, guys. In terms of budget, what we're looking at, just ballpark, just roundabout ballpark figures.
Yeah, so we know what we're working with. And I was like, oh God, I need to put this through, you know what I mean? I don't know how much it is. So I said,
you basically said we've got 6 to 10 grand.
Yeah, but I said it like this, so it's 6 to 10 grand. And I'm not joking. The atmosphere changed. It was like literally there had been an earthquake. All their faces dropped.
Well, they actually slightly guffawed, like as if it was a joke.
Yeah, they went, like
they just went, oh, like that.
Yeah, I felt really, really embarrassed, and then I went, pathetically, is that too little?
And then they basically
no, it's good to know what we could potentially be working with.
Okay, I mean, yeah, that could get, you know, a design.
And then I went to go, well, you know, we don't know yet about the, okay, we gotta go, and they literally rounded us off like as quick as possible.
Yeah, they got off the call from us like within minutes, and I was like, oh God, and then we felt this slow shame of like, oh, that's why they were laughing at our jokes. Like,
That's why they were being nice to us.
because they thought like we had 100 grand in branding.
No, they don't think we're Claudia Winkleman of the wellness world.
No.
They don't think that at all.
We actually felt shame,
We felt
like
shame.
proper
There was, like,
shame, like
pit of my
you know,
stomach.
like you're not in the cool club shame. That sort of shame.
Yeah, it goes back to, and I've always felt like I've never been in the cool club. I don't know if anyone else feels like this, but you never feel quite in the club or quite in the cool club. And I think especially Sharon and I, when we're so out of any club now, and we're literally, you know what I mean?
Well, who's got a teetotal mums in their 50s vegan club? No one.
Who wants to be in that club?
No one.
Anyway.
This episode is sponsored by us, Gavin Sisters, and our very first product, Funki Coffee. It's triple certified.
Paid a fortune to sponsor this.
Yeah, we're paying ourselves.
Yeah.
It's triple certified organic Arabica coffee, and it's boosted with potent adaptogens. The health benefits are many, but don't just take our word for it.
Yeah, instead of us banging on about it, we decided to test our coffee out with our guests at the Detox Barn and take a listen to what they have to say.
They're not getting paid.
No one's getting paid here. Let's be honest.
So we've just served Funky Coffee at the Detox Barn. What did everybody think?
The coffee is delicious. Amazing. And it's not bitter and it tastes like real coffee.
I was very sceptical, but absolutely it was stunning.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. And did you find, because you had it yesterday, did you find you had a crash afterwards, or did you feel like you had sustained energy?
Sustained, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
They want to buy shares in the company. Okay, thanks everybody. For our listeners, you can get 10% off. Go to gavinsisters.co.uk and use the code podcast at checkout.
In this episode, we sit down with Gaia Ferreira, a business coach, creative and former corporate executive who walked away from conventional success to follow a deeper calling. Drawing on her background in business, psychology and the creative arts, Gaia now helps high-performing entrepreneurs who feel stuck at the top reconnect with their intuition and redefine what success truly means. And there's so much to uncover, isn't there, Sharon? We talk about the power of the subconscious mind and the transformation that happens when we stop performing for the outside world and start listening to our inner wisdom. Yeah, it's a brilliant episode and it's full of loads of wisdom and really unpacks what it means to be successful and how to create the life you want. Yeah, and not have the fear. That's what me and Sharon want. Yeah. No more fear. Welcome to the podcast, Gaia. We're delighted to have you on. And I know we've had a few goes at this and technical issues and other issues. And finally, here we are this morning chatting to you. So thank you so much. I found you really interesting because you're a life coach for businesses. So you coach people, but you've got your feet in both worlds. So you work a lot with behavior and the subconscious mind, and they're all the things that Sharon and I are really interested in. Before we get into the nitty-gritties of your method, I thought it'd be lovely if you could just share your journey up until this point.
Sure, absolutely. And thank you for having me. Yes, so my journey, I think everybody has a journey to go through. One of the things that I focus on in my coaching is why are we here, right? Like, why were we born? But why were we born here and now? Like, why are we experiencing all these things? And the mind likes to judge, and usually we judge from pain, from our fears, from our doubts, basically from our childhood trauma. And what I mean by trauma is what we learned that is not enough of us, right? Like where we learned that we're not enough. So all that comes in how we interpret the world. And my own journey was, I guess my childhood was very opposite. So I grew up in a home that there was a lot of stress and there was a lot of verbal misuse of language. But at the same time, I came from a family that was so filled with love, so much affection, so much welcoming. And, if you ever came to my family in Portugal, for instance, instantly you'd feel a part of the family. And that's the amount of love that I grew up in. But also in my own household, there was the complete polar opposite. So I've always been fascinated by why people do what they do, why they are the way they are. And I started out learning, going to university and studying psychology. And this was just before Y2K. So there was this big fear that Y2K was going to like ground the world to a halt and it would be the end of everything. So
Sorry,
I actually,
right, can I ask? I don't know what Y2K is. Sorry.
yeah, Y2K. So that's so sweet of you. Like, I guess I'm much older.
No, you're not. You're not. I've not heard of that. Maybe is it abbreviation for something that I might know?
Yeah, year 2000.
Oh, yes,
Oh,
yes.
right. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe it's a software term, but basically the programmers of the world forgot to program all their programs with 4-year digits. They had only programmed with 2-year digits. So they needed like a ton of programmers to go in and reprogram all the software that was already running the world. So banks and insurance companies and hospitals and all that. And so I left the psychology education and went back and studied programming and everything in IT. So I got a diploma in applied information technology. And I did what everybody expects you to do, right? When you grow up, you get a good job and you work for a good company. And if you're lucky, you stay in that company forever and loyalty matters and all that old school stuff, right? Well, that wasn't what happened. I actually stayed at the same desk probably for about 7 years and worked for 3 different companies. That's the kind of loyalty I got. And I eventually moved away from Canada, where I grew up, and moved to Europe. And then that's where kind of everything started. So my family's Portuguese, but I grew up in Canada and was born in Canada. And I married someone who was raised in France and who was British. So together we had this very international lifestyle. And we moved to Barcelona, and then we moved to France, and then we moved to Madrid. And in all of these experiences, there were commonalities on everybody's behavior. But then there are also all these cultural differences, morality, things that sit on top of human knowing. And that made me even more curious about what makes us the same and what makes us different. And is the different important, or is it temporary, right? Is it something that is a baseline for humanity, or is it a baseline for differentiating ourselves? And so this kind of took me on this giant, deeper search of who am I and who are we all? And it took me into a more heartfelt, soul-led journey away from the mind. Because the mind is what really messes all of us up, right? Whether you're looking at anxiety, stress, depression. If there's no physical, like a chemical imbalance or error in our system, right? Then it's something we're doing to ourselves. Everything that happens in the mind is conflict-based. It's separation-based. Different-based. Morality, for instance, whether it's religious or societal, is we are better than you. We have the answer, you don't. And that separation is what causes all of us pain. So over the last 15 years or so, I really looked at that with my clients, looked at that with myself, did a lot of learning in different fields around human behavior, but also around intuition and universal laws and the spirit and the spirit side and the science side. And I've combined it together, and that's how I coach now.
So I just want to ask, because up until this point, you've had quite an interesting life, and it's obviously made you the person that you are today. I noticed that in Spain you were a famous chef and you had your own TV show, and you've worked with Tony Robbins, and you've had a very interesting life. So first of all, what was it like being a famous chef? Why didn't you stick to it? Did you enjoy it? Yeah, what was that experience like?
So I firmly believe that when we are driven by what sets our soul on fire, opportunities come to us. The ones that are aligned come to us. We don't have to be seeking or hustling. And whenever we're in hustle mode, that's our ego wanting something that we don't fundamentally believe we can naturally have. Right?
Yeah.
The TV show was an alignment like that. Since I was little, I was always super creative. So I think around 6, I discovered music as an academia, as something I can pour myself into. And music for me was an escape from the chaos of the home I grew up in. And I thought everybody had this, but they didn't. And I used to play piano for 6 hours a day, and it felt like 10 minutes. And from the age of 6 to the age of about 22, my entire daily existence revolved around music. So I played piano, I sang, I was on a lot of stages growing up. I recorded with major national and international artists as a background singer. I think I spent more time on stage than I did on the ground. So when I worked in corporate, so when I was in IT, I was a marketing director for the #1 software company in our specific industry. And so I was also always on stage doing product demos and everything. And this is where I just love to be. I love to be on stage. When I burnt out from my career and decided, you know what, I've always wanted to go to chef school. I'm in Madrid, Cordon Bleu just opened in Madrid, like magic. Like it was just, the time was just so perfect. I was like, yeah, right. Okay. I'm dropping my career as an executive. Everybody thought I was crazy. I probably was a little bit, but you have to be a little crazy to get what you want. And I went back to school, studied chef school, and I had this giant plan, right? The ego makes the plan. And I had this plan about, okay, when I finish, I'm going to get a job working for a 5-star hotel. I'm going to make myself a name working for another brand. Then I'll separate, make my own brand. Well, what happened was in the middle of chef school, I got pregnant with my third. And, you know, with babies, like your schedule isn't your own anymore. So I had to reinvent. And so I graduated chef school. And I think it was about 5 weeks later, my daughter was born. And 3 weeks later, I had my first order in catering a party. And that opened up a catering business. And then the catering business opened up an opportunity with a company here that I represented to make American cuisine, to educate about how American cuisine isn't just hamburgers and hot dogs. It isn't just the food of the obese. Like, it's a very rich cuisine. That got me on TV a lot. And then being on TV here in Spain got me a TV show. And it just naturally happened. There was no effort on my side. And my clients who do this, right? My clients who kind of give in to their dream, who commit to their dream, they very quickly start to see their dream manifest. And when it doesn't, it's because something in their ego is still saying, it has to be like this. It has to be hard. You have to hustle. You have to look. You have to seek. You have to chase. And all of that holds us back. Right? It holds back the flow of energy. And life, at the end of the day, is all about flowing your unique self. Right? It's about getting rid of.
Sorry, thanks for sharing that, Gaia. I think that's really interesting because we relate to it as being creatives as well. And, you know, our background was always acting and, you know, writing shows and being on stage. But I think I was always hustling. Do you know what I mean? And we would get very far and then the door was sort of closed. So, I mean, I'm not alone in that, in the industry that I'm in. But I always thought, gosh, you know, like, I think it's meant to be easier than this, and kind of doing my wellness stuff, and we've got a wellness retreat and this podcast and we're launching products, and not every day is everything flows to me, but it is much more I found easier. When people sort of say to me, you know, you set up this retreat company and it sells out, you know, every month. What do you do to sell it? Loads of people want to do retreats. And I'm like, not much. I mean, it's just come, and it's such a nice way to live, you know, when you feel in that flow. So is that part of your core teaching about being in that flow?
Yes, because and correct me if I'm wrong, right? If this doesn't resonate with you, by all means, jump in. But when you're doing something you love, because you love doing it, you glow differently. You speak about it differently. You put energy into the world out there differently. And anyone who wants a piece of that, right? Who wants that glow, who wants that ease, who wants that flow, who relates to your story or your love, or will want to join you, right? They'll want to be a part of it. I mean, that's what a movement is. We think of all these cult leaders, right? The evil ones and the positive ones, but even the evil ones, our mind goes, how does anybody rationally jump in with these people who, you know, in 6 months or a year somehow get a group of humans, intelligent ones, one would assume, to mass hurt themselves. Right? But it's because they're so sure, they're so certain of the message of themselves, of their path, of why they were born, that people who resonate with that message just naturally gravitate. Now, use this power for good, right? Obviously. And that is part of the trick is, am I doing this because it fundamentally represents my greatness? Or am I doing this because I'm trying to reach a goal that solves something inside of me, like a void inside of me I don't yet have? And all of our human existence, all of our human suffering, pain, we all are going to suffer pain. Like, we're all going to have pain. But to suffer through pain is a choice, right? If I get pinched, it's going to hurt. But to sit there for 3 hours crying about how you pinched me, that's not necessary. Yeah. And that's what we end up doing a lot. we don't look at ourselves. We look at the world around us as the reason to blame or the reason for something happening. We don't look at our part in the equation. And so we're always victims of our lives. And the second we stop and we just look at ourselves, we also start to understand ourselves. We start to see that if this is a pain, then what is the gift? And can I give myself more time, more energy, more space in that gift? It's simple. It's not easy, but it's simple.
Well, I think it's simple when you know, but it's becoming aware of it because, you know, we are programmed to think a certain way. You know, our subconscious is working automatically in the background without us realizing it. How do we stop that? How do we stop our unconscious mind influencing us? For example, like Lauretta and I obviously were sisters, so we brought up together. We had a wonderful family, you know, similar to yours, Irish, big, welcoming, full of love. But there wasn't much well done, you know. And I sort of wonder. We've reflected and we've gone, you know, our need to be on stage and our need to. Was there, I mean, people used to say like, well, no, I'm just really good at acting. I'm just the one thing that I'm good at. That's why I want to do it. But I think it's deeper than that. As we've taken a step back, it's like maybe there's a need for the applause or for the well done because we didn't really get it. And this isn't a pissy story. This isn't oh my God, I wish my parents said well done more. You know what I mean? It totally isn't. But, you know, maybe there is something in that and that subconscious story. And I've become aware of it because I don't want to bring that subconscious story of, you know, my acting and of, oh, not quite making it or getting so far, but never quite, you know, getting what you want. And there's a narrative of like, you never quite get what you want going on. Obviously, the first step is to be aware of it and then to kind of, and I have to work quite hard when disappointments come, of course they come, that I don't go back into that default, told you never quite get it. You never quite get what you want, do you? That tiny little voice. And I have to really push it away. So is that the sort of stuff that you work with your clients, that type of subconscious messaging?
Yes, is the short of it. So there's 4 levels at which we can work: the unconscious mind, the conscious mind, the heart, and the soul. And the soul for me is really the energy. And that's really where the real magic works. So the conscious mind and the unconscious mind are like an iceberg. The unconscious mind is below the water. It's all the stuff you don't see and you don't know to look for it unless you look for it, right? And the conscious mind is everything above the water. Now, if you've ever seen those ships go through the Arctic Circle, sometimes there's ice on the water. And the thickness of the ice we also have on our water level, right? And that thickness is our resistance. The more we resist breaking through the water and going deep, the harder it's going to be to break our patterns. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. 72% of entrepreneurs deal with mental health issues. And that looks like anxiety, ADHD, fear, loneliness, depression, like all this human stuff, right? But they've somehow managed to make that pain part of their tools for success. By contrast, the average civilian, an entrepreneur, mental health is 49% of society. For the 49% of society is not using the tool of like the pain as a tool of success. They're just getting along, right? They're just getting by. So what drives us matters to what we put out in the world. Now, why do we do what we do? Like, why do entrepreneurs manage to make it a part of their success and other people don't? It's the story we tell ourselves and the meaning we give to who we are and why we're here. There are 6 human needs that we're always trying to fulfill, 2 that are usually primary: certainty, variety, significance, connection, growth, and contribution. Now, the first 4 are needs that we must fulfill in order to feel safe and good and know that our human life in these 80 to 100 years counted, right? The growth and the contribution will automatically take care of the physical, but they're spiritual. They are beyond the ego, beyond the I. 95% of human beings are operating from the need for certainty. So will I have food tonight? Will I have money in the bank? Can I count on my family? And significance. Do I matter? Can I do it my way? Do I have freedom? For entrepreneurs, this is even stronger. They know they matter. They know that even if it's not conscious, their pain is why they do something big in the world. Yeah. So with entrepreneurs, a lot of them have some awareness of this and they don't want to let go of that pain that drives them. And the challenge then becomes, can you have the meaning without the hurt? Can you work on your unconscious mind, be aware that maybe the limiting belief is I'm not enough, and convert it to I am enough, and that's why I do X, right?
I
Can we,
say, yeah.
does that make sense? So that
Yeah, yeah.
we're operating from love, and like there's a term called moksha. Moksha is the liberation of the cycle of karma, right? As long as we're in our pain, we're constantly reliving karma. We're constantly living those consequences of our decisions. When we free ourselves from that, that's called moksha. It's liberation. So that's bliss, that's nirvana, that's utopia. That's where I try to get my clients to. That's where I focus my day on as well, is that if I know that this pain creates this consequence, can I break the cycle and still create the impact, but do it from a place of love, do it from a place of liberation, do it from a place of like spiritual growth, spiritual discovery, and contribution to the planet.
Okay, that's really interesting. So would you call yourself an entrepreneur?
No.
No. So you're a business owner, though you own your own business.
Yeah, I would, I mean, I'm not a big fan of titles or labels because it puts us in boxes, but I'm more like a free spirit.
Okay.
Running a sovereign show.
I think my question is, I just think it would be quite nice to dig into what your vulnerabilities are and the techniques you use to overcome them. So what is your Achilles heel as someone that's out there? I know you're a single mom and you've got to pay your bills. What is your Achilles heel, and what do you do when those thoughts come into your head, those subconscious thoughts that are negative? How do you work around them?
So I recently recently, it was probably about 3-4 years ago, I did something called EMDR. And it's a therapy that uses your eye movement to reprogram the belief systems that are internalized and unconscious. And I discovered that if I go back to my earliest memory of childhood, the belief that was implanted in that moment, and I was probably 3 or 4 years old, so it wasn't something I chose, right? It was just something that came in, was that I don't matter. And whenever I noticed myself resisting something or like arguing for the no, arguing for the limitation. So I do this thing called, I don't know what it's called because it's what I do, but it's observing what the observer is observing. So you're the player. So you're a player, right? And you're in this world through your own eyes, observing things. And at every moment you're making judgments without even knowing it, right? Like the sky is blue, that woman is kind, that man is not, right? You're constantly making these judgments. It takes something like 1.8 seconds to have an impression on someone, right? But when we have an event that feels uncomfortable, we're doing a lot more judgments. We're making a lot more meanings to that moment. And just like the audience watching a movie always knows what the main character should or shouldn't do, should or shouldn't say, go into that room or not go into that room, I try to play the audience of my life. So I step out 20,000 feet above my life timeline, and I, without emotion, without my ego, observe what's happening, like observe myself, observing like the world around me. And I take notice of what is it that I'm picking out. So every conscious moment that we're awake, we are picking up 40 bits of information out of the 40,000 bits that are available to us. The 40 bits you pick out, so that's danger, there's a bit of red over there, there's a spider in the corner, right? The 40 bits we pick up is telling of where we still have fear, where we still have doubt, where we're still in protective mode. So I try to observe what the observer is observing.
Okay.
And from there, create something new. Like what else is in the room? What else is happening? So for instance, if you and I were having an argument, which I don't have very many arguments in my life, but if you and I were having an argument, instead of noticing what you're telling me, and with all my ego try to fight back and make you wrong and make me right, I try to notice what else you might be telling me that your words might not be expressing. Like I might look at your body language or your eyes, or is there tension in your body, or are you relaxed? What else might you be feeling? What else might be going on in your energy that is not being communicated directly in that moment? And then allows me to be more empathic, more compassionate, take a step back and respond to the situation instead of reacting to it.
Yeah, that's quite interesting because I know with my son, he's 12 now and he's got ADHD, and I know when he's angry, because I've learned a lot about him and a lot about ADHD, and so funny how much compassion you can have for your own child, and how it's harder to transmute that to human adult connection. But when he's really angry, I know the core emotion is anxiety. So it helps me understand him more and be more empathetic.
It's the iceberg theory, isn't it? That
So
people
I
only
he's
present the
angry.
tip of the iceberg, but underneath is the stuff that's really going on.
Yeah, so he's angry. And I'm like, okay, he's anxious about school tomorrow, or he's anxious that he's not going to get something right, or and I do try and remember, as when you have those adult to adult, if someone is kind of kicking off at you, to go, what really is going on here? I mean, something that Lauretta and I, it's funny because you said I don't have many arguments in my life, and we don't either. Not that we're the same person, but we have a lot of similarities. But I'm quite conflict adverse, and like sometimes I step back, and even you said to me the other day, like, why didn't you say something? Why didn't you say something? And there's part of me going, is it because I don't like conflict? Am I not brave enough? Or like you said about the observer, can I see 3 steps ahead? What's this going to bring me if I say that? How is this going to help? Is it going to help me? No, because I'm probably going to get into conflict, which I don't like. Are they going to hear it? As you slightly play out, but I'm a little bit worried that I'm actually just conflict adverse and not like this wise guru. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I'm a Libra. So by default, we're conflict averse, right? We want peace and harmony all the time. But again, like I said, my limiting belief was that I don't matter. And what do we do if we believe this? We compromise, right? We don't say what needs to be said. We tell ourselves it's because we don't want to fight or whatever. But really what we're trying to do is make the other person comfortable at the cost of our own comfort.
Yeah, that's right.
That's it. Yeah.
Right. And why do we do that? Maybe because in our childhood or something, we learned that we actually don't have the right to speak up. Because if we speak up, we're going to get yelled at, we're going to get punished, right? And it just happens, right? We're humans. We all have things. So if our mom or dad or siblings or friends or teachers did that, they didn't mean anything negative by it. It's just human interactions are like that. So what you said was interesting because you're thinking 3 steps ahead, but 3 steps ahead means you're already in safety mode. Right? You're already looking for the danger that you expect is going to happen. But are you also looking for the surprise, the gift, the positivity, the opportunity for the other person to rise and meet you where you want to be?
Yeah. It's interesting because I actually remembered what the example was, and I can share it because I'm sure they won't listen to the podcast. But it was, I won't name names, but I had to pick up it was many years ago, and I had to pick up my son from somewhere. And as they opened the door, it was like New Year's Eve, and they were sort of having a party, and my son was there for the day. It was early evening, but the food wasn't ready. And the people that were in the house, I knew them, but she just said, oh, he's not ready yet. And then just didn't invite me in. So I was like, oh, okay. I said I could go home and then come back. It'll be about 20 minutes. And she was like, yeah, that's fine. So I was okay. It was like a bit unwelcoming. But then when I came back again, it still wasn't ready. It was 20 minutes later. And I said, oh, how much longer? She went, probably another 20. And I went, oh, okay, I guess I'll drive home and come back again. And she was like, yeah, probably best to do that. And I'm like...
And inside they were all having a party. It was New Year's Eve. Sharon was on her own. They were all having a great time.
I would have stayed like 20. I hate New Year's Eve. I would never have stayed till I don't drink. I'm just like, but it was, what was the word? I don't even know what the word was, but it was just like...
It was really hurtful.
It was really hurtful. I'm like...
But it's also daunting because it's, you don't expect that. Like social courtesy is like, oh, why don't you come in and, just wait here and you can
or
rush
have a drink with us while you're waiting. Or
people that were in the house, I knew one of them from school, really lovely. I was just like, she really does not want me in the house.
Several years or months later, looking back at that moment, what do you think would have been a better response?
Well, I mean,
from where you stand, of course.
I mean, I did think it through. Because I was going to send her a message and go, thanks so much for having my son. It was really unwelcoming. Like I didn't understand, why you kept sending me back. But then she wasn't a good enough friend for me to care enough about, I guess, was the response. It was like, what is this going to achieve? She's not really in my life. It doesn't really matter. The thought of going to her at the door, why don't you want me to come in? Have I done something? unbearable. Like, no, I just could not. I mean, what would be the right response? I don't know.
I don't know. I would just say, can I come in and wait for him here?
Yeah,
Would you
yeah,
have
yeah.
done?
See, that's amazing. The way you said that.
Yeah, I'm
But
probably
I would have
scared of
done
it.
it I would have probably started crying as I said it. Would it be okay if I came in?
But
I mean, like,
here's
my whole life would have. Yeah.
but we all have these moments, right? And sometimes they happen because we're so shocked by what we're
Yes,
facing.
yeah.
We're like, wait, my whole radar system is thrown off, right?
Yeah.
But and then after the fact, we do one of two things: we either let it go or we ruminate.
Yeah.
And the rumination is where let's call it suffering, right? We're suffering the moment that happened, lasted maybe 3 minutes, but in our system, it lasts years or months or weeks, right? It's the rumination that's suffering. So what I can say is that the more you know yourself, the more you know your boundaries and your standards and your non-negotiables, the more you communicate those effectively moment to moment. What is key, apart from knowing yourself, is the state of presence. Presence is super important. Most of us have a really hard time being present because we're constantly connected to our phone that's throwing stuff at us, right? Dinging WhatsApp notifications, or we're occupying our waiting time with Instagram reels, and then we get home and we turn on the TV and then the kids are asking us for things. We're always being bombarded with noise and distraction. So we don't have the gift that our parents had, which was empty moments of stillness, waiting for the cashier to take, to run through your items and just standing there pondering life. So we lose ourselves.
Yeah. It's so
we lose
true.
ourselves without being consciously aware, because what is being fed to us unconsciously, even if we tell ourselves we're not really listening, it's just the radio in the background, is actually feeding our subconscious with messaging constantly. And so most people are walking around not knowing who they are, putting up a fight, right, all the time, because they're not reacting to who they are. They're reacting to who they want to be perceived as, because that's what's been fed through music or movies or whatever, and not understanding why there's so much disconnection in their relationships, arguments, conflict, stress, anxiety. I mean, all stress is fundamentally when your expectation of the world does not meet reality.
Yeah.
Right? And we fight this. We fight it so much. But if we know who we are and we know that we stand for this, these are our principles, these are our boundaries, what we'll accept and not accept, and we're non-negotiable about it, it's not that people will stop behaving badly with us. It's just that it won't even enter our radar to give it a second moment's airtime in our mental space. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And, like, I don't want to share too much, but, both Lauretta and I've got ex-husbands, and at time it's been tricky. And I don't know whether this is defeatism or what it is, but like, I will very rarely flag anything anymore because when I've done I've learned from in the past, if I do, all it does is end up hurting me. All it does is cause loads of conflict. He's never going to hear it. So my acceptance, or maybe it's a good thing, my acceptance of him as a person is I totally know now. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know, again, I don't know whether it's it's a bit like,
It's not always just and it's not always fair.
No.
I think that's the thing that you wrestle with. It's not just and it's not fair. One thing I've learned is that what's fair on me is that I feel okay and I can't be arguing because something's not right and not fair.
Yeah, that's what I've
Well,
had to let go
again,
of
Libra over
fairness.
here, we're all about balance and fairness and justice.
Yeah,
So
me too.
I feel your plight, but the quicker we can just accept that life is not fair, the legal system is not just, and meritocracy does not actually exist, right?
Yeah.
The quicker we can just be who we were meant to be, allow ourselves the freedom of being free, of being in moksha, right? Liberated from the cycle of karma, and start living our dharma, which is living our destiny. We're all living our fate. You did something 10 years ago, you're being punished for it today, right? You ate a cookie, you get, an extra 3 pounds tomorrow, whatever. We're constantly in fate. I'm living my fate. I'm living the result of every decision I've ever made up until now. And we forget that there's destiny. And destiny is, if I can dream it, I can have it. I can't do it being who I've been. I can't do it carrying all the bag of pain and, injustices and whatever wrongdoings have been done to me. I have to put that bag down. I have to let go of who I think I am, the story I tell the world I am, and create something new. but I get to create from in here, not up here. Right? I get to turn off the radio, turn off the TV, and choose consciously, deliberately what I get fed. Not just the food I eat, because we all know that's important, right? We need to fuel our body with lots of colors, not beige, not white, right? But a lot of other colors to create that chemical balance in our brain, in our blood, and in our gut. When those are imbalanced, we can't expect good emotions. But if that's balanced, the next thing to do is to nutritiously feed our heart and our souls by what we listen to, who you surround yourselves with, what you read. And no one ever became a happy human being by watching the news. Just turn it off. We are not meant to know what's happening 6,000 kilometers away from us, right?
Yeah.
If you're not going to step in and go help those poor souls who are going through whatever somewhere else, feeding your nervous system with that is just causing yourself pain. It doesn't make you a better person because you know someone is suffering somewhere else.
Well, actually, it's interesting because I have someone in my life who's constantly sending me updates on Israel, and I'm just like, and there's part of me going, unless you want to do something about, I don't know whether I'm being really selfish, whether I can't look at it, whether I'm turning a blind eye, or there's a saying, I can't remember what the saying is, but not on it, we let history go by or whatever. I can't remember what the saying is, but I'm like, can't watch this stuff unless you're going to go and march or donate loads of money towards the cause either. I don't know what good this is doing, but then you are turning a blind eye.
Well, you're not turning a blind eye. I think it's important that there is some level of awareness.
Yeah.
But in the same token, I think that constantly watching it doesn't help
Exactly.
us. You know,
awareness is not the same thing as being an expert in it. We don't need to be an expert in the news.
Yeah.
If, World War III is coming, a virus that's going to lock the world down for 2 years is coming, an economic downturn is coming, we need to be aware of it, but we need to know every little last detail of what every, involved human being did or didn't do. No, we don't need the story.
Yeah.
We just the main fact, if that is the word to use.
The other thing I wanted to ask Gaia about is fear and instinct. It's something that I wrestle with when I'm trying to make decisions as a business owner. Sometimes I find it difficult to understand whether I'm driven by fear or whether it's my instinct. How do we differentiate between the two?
So I would add another level there would be intuition as opposed to instinct. Because instinct, I don't know that humans have a lot of instincts anymore. I mean, animals have instincts, right? There's no thought going through. This happens, they do that, right? Dogs experience something scary and they shake it off. That's an instinct to shake it off so they don't carry that with them 5 minutes later. We don't really have those. A lot of what people are calling their gut instinct, right, is actually a trauma response. So it's for their protection. It's for their safety. It's what keeps them small and in the box that they're already in. And intuition won't do that. Intuition will still protect you, but it's usually showing you the way out of your box, the way to expand, the way to reach your greatness, not the way to stay who you think you must be. And an exercise, so I've recently found out that not everybody has two voices in their head. So I talk about the gremlin voice and the soul voice. And the gremlin voice is the one that's always talking to you, right? It's the unwanted roommate that pays no rent and leaves a place a mess and leaves you afraid of the boogie. And it's the one that every time you ask yourself a question, should I do this? Should I not do this? What do I go left? Do I go right? Do I invest? Do I not invest? It's the one that's like, blah, 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 blah. Do it because remember that moment. Oh, in the past, that might, this happened. So maybe it might happen again. And it's constantly justifying an answer for you. Your soul doesn't do that. Your soul whispers. It gives you the answer once, quietly, instantly. And if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss it. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
A lot of like kinesiologists and NLP people and all these, they do muscle testing, and there's a lot of different muscle tests you can do. You can do like standing up, you ask yourself a question, and usually if you're rocking back and forth, it's a yes. If you're walking side to side, it's a no, right? You have another one that you can do this. So if you ask yourself a yes question, then these two fingers will be super locked in and you won't be able to split them. But if you ask yourself a no question, the muscle weakens and your fingers will go through. Right?
Give me an example of that. Sorry, I want to try
Yeah.
this. So
So,
shall I ask myself a question?
I am a woman.
Yeah. Okay.
I am 50 years old. I
Yeah.
live in Valencia, right? I'm a man.
It's interesting because
Like, it's just-
my mind plays games with
Yeah,
me.
my mind's
So
going.
my mind is going, you've just opened your fingers to let yourself do that because you know that you're not a man. Do
Yeah.
you see what I mean?
So
that's why I
since
can't
there's
trust
the
myself
two of
doing
you,
things like that. Yeah.
yes, but if you're quietly paying attention to yourself,
Yeah.
right, you will notice that the tension in your fingers has changed.
Okay.
And that's not something your mind's going to do. It's just your body just relaxes, right?
Yeah.
Because there's two of you, you can do it with each other. So you put your arm out like this,
Yeah.
right? And one of you puts the arm out and the other one tries to bring it down.
Okay.
Right? So you
put
try
your
to make
arm
it
out.
as hard as you can. So make your arm as hard as you
Just so the
can.
listeners know that we're putting our arms out to the side. Yeah.
Yeah, and usually this works better if you're standing up. So I'm not sure how this will work sitting down, but so stretch your arm out, make it as strong as you can, and don't let her push it down. So try to push it down. Okay. Now ask a question that's a yes.
Are you a woman? Yeah.
Okay. Now ask a question that's a no.
Do you have 3 children?
She's really weak, so she used to have a muscle disease. I'm not sure this is going to work.
Okay, maybe, but it will, like, it works, especially if you don't already know the answer. Like, should I go to, should I stay home this summer on holiday?
Oh, okay.
You know, should I?
Okay, I've got another question.
Okay.
Okay. Right, ready?
Yep.
Should we extend our holiday for a bit longer in the summer? No, but you said no because you said we can't afford it.
Right. So
Okay,
it works when you're honestly asking the question, obviously.
Yeah.
Anyways, the point is that we have to get familiar with that little voice. A lot of people are so fast, so busy, so occupied. So again, it goes back to being able to practice presence and stillness. If you can't or don't give yourself that space, it's harder to hear that voice. It's harder to trust your body's intuition, right?
So how do you help yourself hear that voice?
Meditation.
Meditation is a great one, journaling, and just practicing asking yourself the question, noticing what you notice inside.
Yeah. But also, even the other day, I was on the train and it was an overground train, so I could look out the window. And I went to get my phone up and I was like, stop, just ponder. And it was really hard. After 10 minutes of pondering, I went back to my phone and I had to keep putting it away because I got bored. And we've eradicated boredom.
Yeah.
But boredom is where we ponder and where we can hear ourselves, you know.
Yeah. But that little voice, again, it's always talking to us. And if you've ever made a decision, if you ever had to make a decision and you pondered and you went with that loud voice and then things didn't work out the way you expected them to work out, and you tell yourself something like, I knew it. I don't know why I did that decision. I knew this wasn't going to work out.
Yeah.
Go back. What was the voice that told you it wasn't going to work out that you ignored?
Yeah.
Right? Or what is the voice that had the answer that you're now regretting not taking? Because it's not always a no, right? But does that make sense? That's the voice you want to get familiar with. It's always there. You go to a restaurant and you're looking at the menu and they got some gorgeous, juicy burger, and they have a nice healthy salad. Oh, that burger looks really good. Look, it's over there. Look at all that juice coming up, right? And okay, I'll have the burger. And then 20 minutes later, you're feeling sick, right?
Yeah.
Should I have a salad?
I hadn't had that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I always remember we had to make a big decision. We'd written a play with West End producers, and they offered us a lot of money to take the play, but their only condition was that me and Sharon weren't in it. After it was agreed that we would be in it.
They went back on their word, basically. And then they were like, we're going to recast it. It's all going to be A-listers. It now means you can't be in your own show. And my agent was like, look, this could be a cash cow. You know, we're both single moms. Take the money.
Take the deal. But inside, in my heart, in my soul, I was like, I can't work with these people. Maybe if they'd been honest to begin with, but every part of me is saying no. And so I said no. And I never regretted the decision. I never once went,
but just to caveat this, the only thing is, but maybe it's just not our destiny, was that I would like it to have a better ending so that we said no, we stuck to our principles. And
then someone else took it.
But the story's not over yet.
Okay.
The story's not over yet. Right? If that place still exists, right? If you're still passionate about it, keep talking about it, keep working towards it, keep moving it forward. And the right people who resonate with you will show up, right? What you did takes so much courage, right? To deny yourself the success in exchange for spiritual success.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, absolutely. And I felt so it's the proudest decision I've ever made for just not working with people that were complete bastards. I could not sit in a room with them after what they did, because they did it in such an awful way. Like, there's no HR in show business. So I was so proud that we made that decision. It felt like completely the right decision. As I said, I would just love a little, and then, someone from America came.
But then I don't know how much is ego as well,
Yeah.
because I really enjoyed sending an email going, no. I enjoyed saying no to them because they'd been such bastards. Is that ego, or I don't know?
Saying no isn't the ego. It's if you say no because you guys are jerks and how dare you treat us like, that's the ego part.
We didn't do that.
We just said
Saying no is actually stating what you need for your well-being, for your long-term well-being. Because maybe you'd make $1 million or whatever, right? But would you be, I know what the natural answer to this is, but if you made $1 million, you may be like, yeah, I'm so happy I made $1 million with my thing. But if it cost you your sanity to get that $1 million,
And
you might be able to buy the house and all this stuff, but it cost you something that's way harder to get back.
There would have been a price to pay, because even up until that point, and there was many times, Loretta, we said, this should be the happiest times of our life. We've got a show on the road. We've got West End producers producing it. We're in a rehearsal room. We're rewriting at night. This is the dream. We were so unhappy because they were, even in the rehearsal room, they were undermining us. They were treating us really bad. They were treating the more famous people in the room better. There was no integrity in the room. And we remember us going to bed going, I should be happy and I'm really miserable. So, and it's that whole adage, careful what you wish for, So I think you're right. I think if we had have taken it, that experience of working with them, knowing what they did to me, would have been a bigger price to pay.
Yeah. And look, I don't know how much you've been around celebrities, right? But there's two types of celebrities. There's the kind who don't necessarily have the great talent, but they have a lot of demands. And they get put on this pedestal. And then there's the true talent, the quiet talent, the one that doesn't need to be shouting at the top of a mountain because they know their worth. And they're treated with respect because they only allow people with respect to be in their entourage, right? So who makes more money? I don't know. But who is happier? Who goes to bed feeling good about themselves, deeply good about themselves, not temporarily good about themselves, oh, I won this one, right? Now I got another fight to fight, right? But the ones who are I'm living my core being, my reason, ma raison d'être, right? It's the ones who have principles and live by them, right? It's the ones who have standards and live by them. It's the ones who know who they are, know their worth, and live by it. And we all have a worth. Earlier, I didn't answer the question of how do I overcome my own self-belief, right?
Yeah.
What our little gremlin does, that loud voice in our head does, is it looks to stack the evidence that keeps us small. It looks for the ways, all the examples of how we failed and where we did wrong and where someone hurt us. And that was the evidence that, X, right? I consciously look to stack the evidence that shows my worth, that shows I matter. I have 3 amazing daughters. I raised them by myself in a country that isn't mine, with very, very, very little human support. I had a couple of really good friends, but I didn't have family or any of that, right? I built my business around being there for my kids and always being available to my kids. So it's not a traditional business. It's why I don't think of myself as an entrepreneur or what. It's a lifestyle business, right? And my kids, maybe they're not Harvard material, but you're either raising kids who will go to college or you're raising kids who will go to heaven. And I apologize for the religious connotation if someone is against that. But the point is, my goal is and will always be to raise good human beings, heartfelt human beings, compassionate human beings. And I have succeeded in that. My kids are amazing human beings. They will always be able to learn skills, to learn academia if that's what they choose, to learn a profession, whatever they decide to do. And they will learn it easier because they know their worth, because I was able to give them that foundation. And that, to me, is why I matter. Maybe I reach 1 million people, maybe I don't, but through them, who I've been lives on.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful way.
I found that really touching. It's such a lovely way to...
Well, define success.
Yeah. And also, especially in a world where success isn't typically defined like that. it's, you know, what college, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I think it's really important. I was saying the other day, I was listening to, there's a famous actress, Sally Phillips in the UK, and she's in Bridget Jones. And I heard her say something very similar, which was really beautiful. She's got a child who's got Down syndrome. And they said, you know, what has it taught you, you know, bringing up someone with Down syndrome? And she said, it's given me everything. It's made me throw away the rule book, because all that's important is their happiness, who they are, who they're with, are they safe, are they fed, can they earn money? And that's all that matters, really. You know, the world gives us so much other stuff that we think that we should be doing for our children, but the fundamentals are they a good human being? Are they happy? Are they safe? That's all that matters.
It was really lovely the way she said it. She sort of said, has he got enough skills to earn enough money that he can feed himself tonight and he's happy? That's it. It's not, is he going to Harvard? That was never going to be there for him, those opportunities. But I think if we all had a bit of that, you know, and less of this roadmap of school, academia, education, fitting in, you know, obviously my son's got ADHD, you know, he doesn't fit into the typical mold, although everyone's got ADHD now, so maybe he does, you know, and it's just that roadmap, isn't it, of school, university, jobs, to do it on the ladder. And it's just like, you know, we hope that we've shared that with our kids as well. And there's many routes, there's many ways, you know, you don't have to follow.
If I can just say one more thing, right? My kids, they grew up in Ireland for the last 12 years. And the Irish school system, for instance, is very old school. And they went to a Catholic school because 94% of schools are Catholic. And they went to an all-girls school because 94% of schools are segregated. And the Irish school system is like a weird one. I think the French one is similar. So it all culminates to the leaving certification exams, which happens in 6th year. It's like a week of exams, one exam per topic, and it covers everything you've ever learned. And the last 2 years of high school or secondary school are basically just prep years for that one exam, right?
Yeah.
The amount of kids in my daughter's class who are on antidepressants, anti-anxiety, antipsychotics, who on weekends were binge drinking or other drugs, right? Just to get by. In my kids, my daughter, she did great in her leaving cert. Obviously, there was none of that because I don't really believe in any of that. My message to my kids was, and still is, the school system is there to teach you how to learn. Obviously, to learn, you have to have material. So they're giving you this material to teach you how to learn. It doesn't matter whether you like it or don't like it. That's not the point. The point is to just learn how to learn. Take the lesson of learning how to learn and then go learn something that inspires you. My eldest, she has her own business right now. She's 21. My 18-year-old, she also had ADHD, fairly heavy. We converted her to a self-directed model. So she can learn what she wanted to learn with facilitators helping her to learn how to learn. She did American college school classes online and was getting 100%. When in the traditional model, she was getting 20%.
Yeah.
You know, put so much pressure on our kids to fit a mold that is never going to serve them.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but have you ever in your adult life had to know quadratic equations or be able to name all the rivers of the country you live in? Or like, why do we give this anxiety to our children? It's not necessary to survive. Yeah. And the things that are necessary aren't being taught. So we might as well not give them added pressure by making it something unimportant important.
Well, I was listening to Eckhart Tolle as well, and he was saying, like, we need to teach kids how to be happy. I mean, it's fundamental. And, you know, and you've talked about it. I'm going to round up next. I know you've got to go. But you talked about it earlier about, you know, food, energy, movement, sleep, all these things, or, you know, reacting to things, choosing thoughts, like how to make yourself happy. I mean, that's fundamental. But anyways, I mean, maybe that's a life lesson that eventually comes. I'm going to wrap up because I know that we've taken up your time. It's just gone 1 o'clock. Thank you so much. I've so enjoyed our conversation. I've really found it really illuminating. So thank you for coming on today.
Really inspiring, and I'm sure it will resonate with so many of our listeners. So thank you so much, Gaia, for your time.
Thank you. And if I could just say one more thing.
Yeah, go.
We're all on this journey together, right? And my goal really is to have more people transcend the suffering of their human lives and awaken the bliss of being who they are fully. So if anybody is out there interested in knowing a little bit more, I am completely redesigning my entire online presence. But for now, I am available on TikTok, and it's Awaken the Bob.
Waking them up. Are you on? Because you had a website. Is that you had your own website as well, Gaia?
So you can still go there, but it's going to be
Yeah.
taken offline soon and completely redesigned. I'm just still
Okay.
working on the copy because this is coming from deep down in here.
Okay.
So it's taking a little longer to produce. But GaiaFerreira.com is still up there. And if you look up Gaia Ferreira on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, yes, I'm up there. But
Brilliant.
the keys to bliss is on TikTok, and that's Awaken the Bob. And Bob is the bliss of being. So
Oh, I
Awaken
love
the Bob.
that. Brilliant.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And we'll put it all in the notes
Yeah,
as well.
we
So
will.
thank
Super.
you.
Today you've been listening to the Gavin Sisters Wellness Show. It really makes a massive difference to us if you like, subscribe and share. We are growing the podcast. It's literally growing and
It helps with the algorithms.
yes, and it really gets us
No one
out
knows
there.
what those are.
No, but it really gets us out there, gets the show out there. Thank you so much for all of you that are constantly sharing, liking, sending me a message. But please, 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 if you haven't subscribed, please do so.
So yeah, you know, we want an assistant.
Yeah.
That's on the vision board. So help us get an assistant.